Hello there. Thanks very much for joining me. I've decided to be a tiny little bit more organised today, and I've done a little bit of writing, and I'm going to read it out to you. Hope that you like it very much. Please like and comment and subscribe and all that good stuff. So I'm going to pop myself into a little window in the corner like that and move this ridiculous light out of the way and read you this bit of writing that I've done. It's all about recording in psychiatric hospitals, which isn't as easy as you might think. Most of the time when you try and record consultations, you just flatly refused, and even though the legislation says that is allowed, I've faced confiscation of my mobile phones as a result of asking to record and saying and protesting that I think I should be able to. So now I just don't try to, and I obey the command not to record. But I've written this article, and I won't waste any more of your time with me waffling because it's quite long. Recording psychiatric consultations. There's a deafening silence, a patient's perspective. Various psych wards treating people with mental illness, including those run by private healthcare provider Cygnet Healthcare, which has over 140 hospitals across the UK with almost 3,000 beds, have policies that don't permit patients making video or audio recordings anywhere on their wards, including during medical consultations. The reasons for rules against recording and other inpatients are obvious, but disallowing recording of consultations just shouldn't be happening. The only exception to the rules on video or audio recording is within the confines of bedrooms, from where, as an inpatient myself at the time of writing and previously, I've been allowed to update my social media accounts, monitored by a multidisciplinary team with video content, like I am now. Cygnet's policy states recording weekly ward round meetings or other private medical consultations regarding treatment in hospital isn't allowed, which consequently results in mobile devices being confiscated for those who attempt to. Having done a little research, I found that broadly the recording of both general medical consultations and also specifically psychiatric consultations was not only totally fine, but looked upon favourably by the board of regulatory bodies and advisory panels, with the proviso that it helps patients to make better decisions, accurately retain information and increase understanding, as well as providing an enhanced level of accountability to help prevent medical malpractice, malfeasance or other issues. As, in my opinion, Cygnet's policy on recording doesn't reflect patients' legal right to do so, which remains either with or without the consent of the clinicians conducting consultations being gained, the General Medical Council has struck doctors off the register using covert recordings. Any patient who's given the instruction that they aren't to record their consultations in any hospital has the right to redress. The thing is, solicitors essentially only get legal aid for tribunals, so unless you have the money to pay for legal advice, which many don't, in practice there's little that can be done. As an inpatient, in fairness to Cygnet, I've been detained under section in the past by the NHS and have been told the same thing, that if I'm seen recording using my devices, even during consultations, they'll simply be confiscated and the files will be deleted. The British Medical Association, BMA, is a registered trade union for doctors in the United Kingdom. It provides legal advice to over 173,000 members and has specialist committees recognised by the British government. It's therefore fair and reasonable to consider its publications as accurate interpretations of relevant medical jurisprudence, although they don't regulate mental health professionals. Its ethics guidance page, Patients Recording Doctors, reads, "Information disclosed during a consultation is confidential to the patient, and a covert recording is therefore not a breach of confidentiality. Where a patient makes a recording without permission, doctors have no legal redress." The BMA quotes Section 36 of the Data Protection Act 1998 as relevant with reference to the legality to take covert recordings of doctors. Personal data processed by an individual only for the purposes of the individual's personal, family or household affairs are exempt from data protection principles. However, as mentioned, the BMA doesn't regulate doctors. This responsibility lies with the General Medical Council. Kirsty Griffiths, Standards Policy Manager for GMC, is quoted in the British Medical Journal as saying, "The information in the consultation is the patient's and, providing no other patient is involved, it's perfectly legal for them to record it for their own use." The GMC has published guidance titled Decision Making and Consent. The section titled Supporting Patients' Decision Making, paragraph 27, reads, "Patients need relevant information to be shared in a way they can understand and retain so they can use it to make a decision. To help patients understand and retain relevant information, you should accommodate a patient's wishes if they'd like to record the discussion. The section titled Recording Decisions states, recordings made by patients are owned by them and do not have to be stored with their medical records. This documents guidance on professional standards and ethics for doctors published directly by the GMC. It states that doctors are always personally accountable for their professional practice and must always be prepared to justify their decisions and actions. An NHS England document I found on the subject, titled Patients Recording NHS Staff in Health and Social Care Settings, says there are no specific legal requirements that govern an individual making a personal recording of their medical consultation or treatment, either overtly or covertly, for their own private use. Recordings made to keep a personal record of what the doctor said are deemed to constitute note-taking. The patient can waive their own confidentiality as they wish. This could include disclosing records, details of their consultation with third parties, or even posting and or sharing the recording in unadulterated form on the internet through social media sites. Policy document C43, which is a little bit more up to date. That other one's kind of like off this website that it says it's an NHS England document, but this is kind of like a much more up-to-date document produced by the NHS Trust that are funding my care at the moment. So it says, Policy document C43 from NHS Devon Partnership Trust entitled Mobile Devices and Access to NHS Wi-Fi in the Care Environment. People funding my detention at Cygnet, Colchester at the time of writing, even though I've lived in Bristol for over a year, effectively says the same thing in section 6.2 and 6.3. A person in receipt of care does not need permission to record a medical consultation, unlike NHS practitioners. Such recordings made for the purposes of the meeting, either covertly or overtly, to keep a personal record of what was said during a consultation, are deemed to constitute personal note-taking and are therefore permissible. While a person does not require permission to record a consultation, common courtesy would suggest that permission should be sought in most cases. The content of the recording is confidential to the person, not the doctor or the healthcare staff. The person can waive their own confidentiality as they wish. This could include disclosing the details of their consultation with third parties, or even posting and or sharing the recording in unadulterated form on the internet through social media sites. Dr. Nick Clements, Head of Medical Services at Medical Protection Society, a medico-legal not-for-profit for doctors, dentists and healthcare professionals advising over 300,000 members worldwide, published on their website as saying, if you prefer not to be recorded but the patient is insistent, you still owe a duty to the patient to assess their condition and offer any necessary treatment. It would be inadvisable for you to refuse to proceed with the consultation because the patient wishes to record it. If a GP wanted to refuse to consult because they knew they were being recorded, they might just walk out of the room or refuse to treat the patient. The difference is that in a psychiatric inpatient setting where a consultant doesn't agree, things work differently. People are frequently injected by force using a team of clinicians to restrain them on psych wards, and sadly, although it does seem on paper that recording is permitted, the same process is eventually used to confiscate items which aren't handed over promptly when requested in mental health impact inpatient settings for those detained under section. My advice, if you're reading this as an inpatient, is to comply with the request not to record. This way you'll keep your phone, which couldn't be more useful whilst detained under section. However, you could try showing them the paper below. The BJ Psych Bulletin prioritises research, opinion and informed reflection on the state of psychiatry, management of psychiatric services, and education and training in psychiatry. It provides essential reading and practical value to psychiatrists and anyone involved in the management and provision of mental health care. BJ Psych Bulletin is an open-access, peer-reviewed journal owned by the Royal College of Psychiatrists. The journal is published bi-monthly by Cambridge University Press on behalf of the college. Volume 46, Issue 3, published an article named The Recording of Mental Health Consultations by Patients, Clinical, Ethical and Legal Considerations, on September the 17th, 2021. On the subject of the rights of service users being infringed upon by recording of consultations, it writes, a common concern is that healthcare recordings may include the voice, image or details of other patients in the vicinity of the recording. This could potentially breach their privacy rights under Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights. The increased use of single bedrooms in mental health units lessens the risks. However, inpatient mental health wards are often louder than other environments and professionals should consider whether other patients are visible or audible in the background. In such circumstances, it seems best practice that the patient is offered an alternative environment for the consultation to be recorded in. One of the things they might say is that other patients can be overheard during consultations, so a peer-reviewed article suggesting that recording is both perfectly legal and that it should be properly facilitated might endow some sense of Hippocratic honour and get a quiet space on the ward where recording might be permitted. Ultimately, though, I would advise against covert recording or anywhere the other party has expressed removal of their consent. In the event that recording is claimed to have been prevented to manage identified risks specific to a patient symptomatic of health, the Royal College of Psychiatrists article quotes the Mental Health Act Code of Practice with reference to this. When patients are admitted, staff should assess the risk and appropriateness of patients having access to mobile phones and other electronic devices, and this should be detailed in the patient's care plan. So, in addition to a copy of the policy which prevents or allows recording, also ask for a copy of your care plan in the event that you're still told not to record, as this can be useful if you're reading this from inside a ward. It should state that you've got full capacity to use your mobile device and the internet, including using it to take voice notes, in theory. In summary, to put it bluntly, there seems to be mass censorship taking place in numerous psychiatric inpatient settings across the UK, but for some reason nobody's talking about it, which seems a little crazy. Hopefully we can promote debate on this and things might change. There's been several points in my life that tapping record at the right moment has made a world of difference. Time more people started doing it. There's lots of links at the bottom there, which are probably in the wrong order, so I couldn't be bothered to finish it. And this video is much longer than the other videos normally are. But there you go. I've done some writing for Mental Health Awareness Week about recording psychiatric consultations, and I'm fuddling my words up because I didn't sleep very well last night. But yeah, I hope that's useful to somebody out there in the universe, and I hope you have a lovely day. All the best.